Tina?
Look, this is release
Like,
day.
glasses.
Look, this is release day, and now we'll do a patch. Let's do a patch. Get in
You want to make
focus.
that prettier.
I think this is right in line with our pro streamer.
Yeah, pro streamers.
This is the pre-stream.
Okay.
It's part of the 320 by 240 monitors.
Should we focus that? Maybe try and focus that. Look at that. See? Focus.
I can see clearly.
Focus, focus. I'm going to try and get it. I don't know why that.
Make it bigger.
Welcome everybody to the Strategy Avatar International Convention 2019. Yesterday we had a pretty fun-filled day. VIPs, most of the VIPs, showed up at the Castle and Stay yesterday. Richard showed them around. We took a cruise last night with Chris. It seemed all right. Got a lot of good feedback.
Maxine loved it.
Did Maxine like it? Great.
That's all that matters.
Guys, we've tried to make this as comfortable as possible as we could for you. We've got the tables, we got you round tables this year so you could have a place to set drinks, laptops, whatever you want to bring to the convention. And we have refreshments back there. There's coffee, there's water. If you need anything in it. There's also, looks like there's a little bit of light beer. I don't know if that's private or public. But,
Breakfast champion.
yeah, it's breakfast. I want to thank all of you for being here, and if you have any problems, concerns, comments, or anything that you need that I can help you with while you're here with the developers, don't hesitate to let myself, Lazarus Long, City and Shade, or Crazy Scavenger.
I haven't seen him yet.
He's the tall guy. Bunny Rabbits is Lazarus Long. Shade is sitting back in the back of the room with her laptop. Hopefully she's looking at appropriate material.
Starr, you messed with my stuff already? At least I ain't just rolling in trying to set up this time.
I know that
Don't be
this
smart
year,
now.
I know that this year was kind of a hit and miss type of year with the announcement of the offices closing. It caused a little apprehension, but I appreciate all of you looking through that and joining us again this year to talk to devs. And I know you've got a lot of concerns and a lot of questions, especially after yesterday's announcement. Which, if there is any apprehension about that, I'm sure that it will be explained in detail. As Lord Bridges said yesterday morning, several times during the course of this convention. So I hope everybody enjoys themselves. And if there's anything that you need or anything we can do to make your stay and your visit more comfortable, please let us know. We will do everything we possibly can. And now, Starr Long.
Hello, everyone. I really wanted to put the picture from Monty Python of Bring Out Your Dead. And then, like, I'm not dead yet. I feel happy. But I decided that would be a little bit morbid.
So I just want to say my wife went to read when she reads my Facebook. She read the link I had on there to the forum thread. And she was very concerned about what Starr was talking about. I'm not dead yet.
It's a mind fuck. All right. So the format we're going to follow in all these panels is a retrospective in the last 12 months since we last saw you all here. And then we're going to talk about things we're going to do here at the very end of the year. And then we're going to talk about next year. It's kind of similar to what we did last year, and it seemed to work. And then we'll have some time for some questions. And then a reminder, there is a panel tomorrow that's specifically focused about the future. There'll be plenty of time for questions, literally all day, every day for the next couple of days. So if you don't get your question answered today, this morning, you've got multiple panels over the next few days to get those answered. So, and I guess I'm supposed to say who I am. So I'm Starr. I'm also known as Darkstarr. I've been doing this for a long time, more than 25 years. My first project was Ultima Online back at Origin Systems, and so I've been making massively multiplayer games since basically they started. And been doing Shroud of the Avatar, not quite since it started, but my deal with Richard was if they had a successful Kickstarter, I would jump on board and throw that Kickstarter into it. And then we had a successful Kickstarter, and then we launched March of 2018, and here we are. And with me, I have Chris, who is now the proud owner of Shroud of the Avatar. So congratulations, owner.
Thank you. And I want to thank Zeke and all the others who helped set all this stuff up and bring this together again this year, even with all the craziness going on. But I'm Chris Spears. I've also been in computer games since pretty much the DOS days, although not working with Starr until 12, 13, 14 years ago, something like that. Now if I move in, it's going to be way too loud.
I'm trying to adjust it since you're not sitting on it, so.
But anyways, so I've been in computer games since the DOS days, close to 25 years ago as well. And I was with Richard at the company before Starr, and actually, I'm pretty sure I've told Starr this all along, but at some point Richard said, "Would you want to work with Starr again?" And he's here, so obviously I said yes. But anyways, and was happy to be one of the guys who pushed the Kickstarter, although don't blame me for some of the crazy stuff in the Kickstarter. There are a lot of voices that were speaking out of that stuff. So, but anyways, I'm happy to be here. I've got lots to talk to you guys about. I talked to a lot of you guys for many hours yesterday, including 2 hours where I was pinned on a boat and couldn't escape. I thought I was going to be able to use the Maxine excuse, but there's even a babysitter for Maxine. So.
We took care.
Good care of Maxine.
I had a
right there.
good time with Maxine.
Yeah, she didn't end up in the water. So anyways, I'll be hanging out. I'll probably only be staying until like 5-ish because I am trying to get a little family time in, and 8 hours or whatever with you guys every day is probably as much of me as you can tolerate anyways. I know you guys are going to stay with Starr for even longer.
Well, that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow night.
Dance party.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so let's just jump right in and talk about what we've done since we last saw you here in Austin. So the last 12 months. And I'm going to have to turn this way so I can read. All right, so this is not even a complete list. This is just the highlights of the last 12 months. So since we last saw you here, we launched the phase 2 of fishing, right? So that was all the different water types. Trophy fishing, so this is the extra information along with the fish you catch, which is like length and who caught it, the ability, all the different fish for the different water types, different baits, etc. And just in the last month or so, we gave you the ability to change your water type if you're a player around town. We added a new weapon type, prong weapons. We had just launched player-made dungeons when we saw you guys, and then we added, right after we saw you, we added player-made dungeon encounters, so having creatures appear in the player-made dungeons. We added decoration, scaling, and flipping. Over 20 new spells and skills since we last saw you. Leaderboards, the ability to combine artifacts that you find into more powerful artifacts. Backslot items now have stats, and you can use them for patterns, you can enchant them, masterwork them. We added crafting masteries, we added Grandmaster enchantments and masterworks. We added new creatures, including nightmares, top tier tamables. So those are, it used to be the Obsidian Destroyer bear with like the so we added a bunch more, so more than just one. Young Dragons, we added new seasonal bosses, so we announced Pumpkinhead last time we saw you guys, and since then we launched Pumpkinhead Krampus, which, look, I didn't even know you were going to give me this when I put this in the slides. So. Darkwinterhead. I think you guys just gave me this so you would hear me say Darkwinterhead.
And Maxine loves Krampus.
Really?
I took that home for Maxine.
It's still just the greatest story. Like putting kids in bags and beating them with sticks. I mean, come on. Who doesn't love a good Christmas story? And Indie Angel. So, like, that's, I mean, for a small team that everyone says we're like done and not doing anything, that's a pretty good list. And that's not the whole list. Wait, there's more. So, next slide. So that was just like the major feature list. Then while we were doing all of that, we were also doing a ton of efforts on improving quality of life. So we added the ability to upgrade your lot with crowns. So that was not just upgrading the size of your lot, but you could even upgrade a taxed lot to tax-free. We also lowered taxes across the board of all the lots. We also made it so basically everyone in the game gets lots for free. So at the end of the outskirts, everybody gets a row lot, and then at the end of the game, everybody gets a village lot. So basically everyone now in the game, free player or not, gets a lot to eat. So everybody becomes property owners. We also did multiple reworks of the user experience. We added universal chat and universal trade channels. We made it so that there's no decay on death. We added basically the ability to bind everywhere. So we added these teleport to scene scrolls, so you can bind town criers, you can bind to these little tier markers and scenes, adventure scenes, and we removed the last few restrictions we had to free play. And we also added messages of the day for player-owned towns and guilds. So tons of improvements to quality of life. And we had made some the previous year, like the ability to skip sieges and things like that. But again, we continued that effort throughout the year. So again, a huge list for a tiny team. But wait, there's more. And then while we were doing all that, we did a ton of work in scenes. So when we launched the fishing phase 2, we added a new scene called Fishing Expedition, which is just an incredibly beautiful scene. It's one of our prettier scenes in the game. Just recently, we did a complete rework of Alpine, and if you haven't been to Alpine, I think it's one of the best adventure scenes in the game. Like just the pacing of it, that wave battle, and the spoiler at the end is really cool. Like, if you haven't played Alpine, it's really cool. We're going to talk about it in the Worlds panel. Keith is going to be here, Sanyo, you can grill him about all the stuff that's in there. It's really cool. Deep Ravenswood, we did a bunch of polish. That's a big favorite of players, and we did a bunch of polish there. And then 2 new dungeons, Tartarus and Despair. So so 2 new dungeons and then major rework on 2 scenes, and then a whole new scene. So lots and lots of work over the last year. So that's all the work we did in the last year. So, and that was through monthly releases, incremental patches, and a lot of that was based on feedback, especially the quality of life. So, in fact, every single one of those quality of life changes were based on direct feedback from players. And then also a bunch of the features from the first slide were also based on requests from players, like the decoration scaling, for instance. That was a direct player request, the ability to scale decoration. All right, next. Here's highlights of some of the things that we are going to attempt to do by the end of the year, Q4.
Doing it.
Okay, Chris assures me he's going to get done. Now, as you may know, we made a policy change recently, which was a little controversial. We stopped doing our quarterly updates because we found that we wanted to be a lot more flexible in what we were able to do in the game, and we found that giving advance notice of what we were going to work on, and then being able to change those goals, put us in a bit of a bind, and created expectations that we were then disappointed in. And so we stopped publicly posting what we were going to work on in advance. So this is contrary to that. We're posting what we're going to be working on in Q4. Anyway, so one of the things we're doing, and one of the things we've talked about for a long time, and one of the things we wanted to do, so we gave you player-made dungeon, we gave you all these amazing tools for setting up your homes and setting up decorations, and you have books, you have notes you can post, and so people using those have set up lots of amazing quests, but they're one of the key pieces they're missing is NPCs. And so one of the tools that we've been looking at is this tool called Inkle Writer, and maybe Chris can talk a little bit more about it. But
Talk for hours.
Okay.
Now.
Sure.
So we have been looking at some of our own systems and trying to come up with basically a feature list. As you guys may know, there's one of our programmers who goes by Undone, has his own little side MMO that he works on, that he is also passionate about that, and he kind of pokes at that. And we use a lot of crosstalk between his company, his project, and us, and he brings over some of his stuff. So that's one of the things that he had found that had worked extremely well for him, and he was able to integrate in no time with his project. We're going to be integrating that into ours, and it's a dialogue tree system that has actual tools for it, because that was one of the big blocking points we had, was we didn't have, putting a dialogue system in is easy if we build it into our editor and build our own stuff. We didn't have a good way to get you guys a tool without a significant amount of work. This has all the features we had designed into ours and more, and it has good tools for it, and it also has one of the other things we need, which is a way that you can quickly, edit stuff, test it out, and then export it to just a kind of a text format, a couple different options, and make it easy to bring it into the game. And so these will be, the simplest version will probably be you go to your NPC and it may be that we have a special piece of paper that you add, you paste your dialogue into that and give it to the NPC type thing. There's other options that we're talking about, but it'll be something along those lines where you'll be able to create your dialogue. You have to get it to the NPC so they can get it up on the server so when other people come. There's a lot of features in it as well. There's some things I've had some questions about that you'll be able to do multi-step and multi-NPCs and dialogue connections between them. So you can have two NPCs and have ways that you can flag between, this guy, once you talk to him, you can talk to this guy. And I can go into more details on that in one of the other talks, because that'll take a while to go into it.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
Well, and then I'm going to get you to talk some more, because the
All right.
next thing we're looking at is Lua integration.
Yeah, so this is one that you guys, there's a lot of things we've been finding as we continue to try to make the game more fun, and looking at also cutting down our CS backlog and our bug backlog and all that type of stuff. One of the things we've seen is that you guys want more data exposed to you. Not everybody, but some people do, and it's one of those things also, the number one thing if a new player who hasn't played the game goes into the game and plays it, the number one complaint they usually give us right away is, your UI sucks. That's the friendly version of it. I mean, that's, you can go look at some of the Steam reviews and see what they say about this. But anyways, it's one of the things that we know is bad, but it's also one of those massive undertakings. So we're going to try to combat a couple of these issues at once, and also make things more flexible for you guys. So there's going to be basically a 3-phase Lua integration. We're shooting for phase 1 by the end of the year. And what that's going to expose is a way for you guys to load Lua scripts and try them out and hook them up to command line stuff. There will be a new tab that right now you can select combat and universal and whatever else. There'll be another one on there that'll be a Lua output, so you can also have your Lua output there. You can basically drag a window out and see your Lua output. And we'll have ways you can hook up stuff to it. Now, the idea is not that every one of you guys is going to run out and immediately learn how to program Lua and become Lua masters. The idea is that a lot of the players will do that, and they'll come up with some good universal scripts. But it will allow you to do a lot of things. It'll allow you to access stats that you can't currently see right to the screen in very simple ways. Will be in phase 1 most likely. That'll just be kind of the raw text output to the screen. It's not going to be fancy UI. Fancier UI comes in stage 2 integration. But it will also, again, people were asking like, well, what can I really do with that? So there's a lot of things you can do with it, and actually the players have been scaring me a little bit with the stuff they're talking about doing with it, because they're already talking about now we can have a Lua script where it can go through and have a Lua script for your guild that talks to their server, dumps their data into the server, and then everybody in the guild can share their information among each other for like, you know, where they are, what they're doing, what the last thing they killed was, what the last time they logged in. You know, all these crazy things that they can do all through Lua. Even stuff of like, you know, player innocently requested, hey, can I have a way when I go to a vendor, it'll dump the vendor to feed the vendor information to Lua. And I was like, well, look, that doesn't sound that hard. And then of course I like, because I'm going to have it go and scrape every vendor in the entire game, dump it to a database so that there's a universal. And it's like, okay, we got to talk about things. But anyway, step 1, this will be in 3 phases, which I'll document in a post coming up here in the not too terribly distant future. I've talked about it on stream in a little detail, but I'll put it into writing so people can do that, which is something I'm trying to do more going forward, is put more things into writing rather than making you watch streams. But stage 1 is basically what I'm talking about. It's read only. You'll be able to read stuff. If there's nothing in it that will be able to execute anything or send it to other people, and it won't be graphics. This will unlock a huge amount of stuff for you guys. That this don't underestimate how many things that can unlock for you guys. And that will be reading client data only. Phase 2 is going to be adding in the graphics. So we'll give you ways you guys can load your own graphics and draw your own graphics on screen using some of the Unity UI primitive type stuff that is really just fine to that. And then phase 3 is going to be some of the getting to the point where you can execute stuff, which is basically you can do stuff that actually talks to the server. That's the one that's a little scary, because that is now you get into the point of like, hey, I just wrote my own bot type stuff, and also the you know, I just DDoS the server by writing you know, talk to the server and tell it F you 1,000 times type stuff. But anyways, phase 1 is we're shooting for the end of the year. We'll have that so you guys can start playing. There's a lot of stuff that unlocked for you guys. So very excited.
Cool. And then another big one is we're aiming to have the overworld for episode 2 live. And what that means too is folks who have bought player-owned towns or player-owned town transfers for episode 2 content can start settling over there. Now we won't have scenes live, adventure scenes or NPC towns over there, but we will have the overworld. Now, one big change for episode 2 that will be different than we did for episode 2, episode 1, which was a lesson I think we learned, is that we're not going to have housing integrated into the NPC areas. So all the housing in episode 2 places will be in player-owned towns only. So there won't be any NPC areas that have player housing.
And the reason for this is one of the things we're trying to change is in episode 1 we had a lot of towns, and most of them, you know, were either useless or towns that just had like 1 or 2 quest things. And we're going to have far fewer NPC towns, but they're going to be more heavy in terms of what stuff, reasons to go there. But that's one of the things we also saw is when you start throwing in player housing, again, there's besides the massive competition for them, there's also massive problems with trying to make sure the game plays well in there. And, you know, just that player housing is a lot more costly in terms of performance and loading a lot of other stuff. We want to keep those towns clean, fast, have stuff in them. They can have public vendors, but there's probably not going to be any player housing. If there is any player housing, it'll be very little. Likely no player housing, and really focusing on making it a bigger town, but, you know, NPC focused rather than player focused.
And then finally, holiday content. So there'll be some new content, like one that hopefully will go live, first bit of it next week, which is going to be some, one example is going to be snow-covered pine trees for decorating. And then, of course, recurring content like Krampus, so Darkwinte. Yeah, so those are just some highlights from Q4. And then, next year, we've got a lot of stuff planned. So, 2020, we, of course, are still planning for episode 2, which is going to be, we'll hopefully already going to have the overworld live, but then we'll start populating it with towns and adventure scenes. And then, of course, players will have started migrating and hopefully complete the migration of all their player-owned towns over there. We hopefully will have revamped our quest and task system. Item history and item leveling is the thing we've wanted to do for a long time, so that your items have a history to them. They can basically earn abilities. You know, the sword of skeleton slaying. More expanding the taming system so that pets have more skills and more customization, and that you as a tamer have direct control of those skills. So things like having another skills toolbar that is your pet's skills in addition to your skills, so you can trigger your pet skills yourself versus just the pet doing it on its own. Expanding what things like chests and doors can do, so exposing parameters for those to you, the players. This is expanding your ability to do things like quests and things like that. So you could say this chest will only unlock if another player has a certain item. And treasure map system, I know this is something that players really love in Ultima Online, so we want to do something like that. And then some kind of achievement system and titles associated with it. And that's just all the things that we had planned for episode 2, but then there's a lot of other things we want to do too, like better system for player vendors. We know that the tools associated with vendors are really clunky, especially when you're trying to share a vendor with other players. So we want to clean that up. Expanding, right now, we only use the trophy data system for fish, but we have always planned to expand that system to things like agriculture. Like when we launched the system, we showed that picture of the giant pumpkins. It's a lot of data, so we haven't had the time to, but we still want to do that. We also want to use that system for trophy heads that you collect from creatures. We want to expand that system so that the heads you collect off dragons and bears and wolves and things like that that you put in the wall would also have that trophy data associated with them too. So you could have hunting contests, just like you have fishing contests, and it would be like, this was a large wolf, an extra large wolf, same with dragon, things like that. Property rating system. We want players to be able to rate each other's decorations and properties and things like that. Now, this would be only up, like there's going to be no down voting, because we all know that would be instantly griefed. So it literally is just a simple thumbs up system. New creatures. We have lots of ideas for new creatures. We want to add more tamables, new skills, new bosses. Like there's one more seasonal boss we want to add, which is the Scarecrow, which will be right around fall. And so that's just a short list of some of the things we want to do. Anything else you want to add to that? We're going to go into more details on each of the plans for 2020 and each of the specialty panels. So we're going to talk more about, like, here's all the things we want to do in 2020 for combat. Here's all the things in 2020 we want to do for world building. Here's all the things in 2020 we want to do for crafting economy, etc. So we're going to go into a lot more detail in each of the panels of each area.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good overview. There's going to be a lot of stuff where we just continue expanding systems as well, like the scoreboard where you can see everybody's everything, continuing to add more categories to that.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Continuing to add in the more all the creatures until all the creatures are available in dungeons. And yes, I figured out what's wrong with the elf room stuff. And I'm done working on a fix.
What, you
So-
fixed the elf room? Really?
No. I know this will shock people, but I've been a little busy with a few things here lately, so.
Yeah, and then just last, I mean, and you all know this, so not sure why you would include this slide, but we do have a really active community, tons of player-run events. We have our weekly live streams and monthly live streams. Really committed to giving you guys tools to run your events. A reminder, you know, we do a community cloak, so if you're having a community event in real life like this, we'll give you a cloak for it. You just need to submit a request. And then the monthly dance parties. And that is our presentation. So I left us plenty of time for some questions before we do our picture this morning. So, I'm sure you have plenty of questions.
They did ask me 4 hours of questions yesterday.
Maybe they're questioned out. And we could go straight to picture.
And
No?
more than that, you would be.
What? He's got one.
If, for the new pet skills and everything, that we're gonna be enhancing pets and everything, is that going to dwarf elementals and other things, summons essentially?
Yes, if we didn't also expand the normal pet system. The normal pet system is going to get some more expanding as well. The taming pet, just because it's kind of an exclusive and it's a full tree of stuff you have to work out, it's a lot more of an investment. And that's also especially one of those things that's carried over from Ultima online days. There's a lot of people, I know this will shock you, there's a lot of people who are very passionate about taming and pets and all that kind of stuff. But the summon pets are also going to be getting a lot of love as well. We're just doing tame pets because there are a large number of people who just focus on taming, and that's their whole shtick. Like, that's what I want to do with my life, is just be a tamer and help pet makes sense. So, yes, they will be continue getting more powerful, but also the summon pets will get more powerful and give you more options as well.
Stunned silence.
I'm telling you, we did 2 hours in the morning, but we did at least 2 hours last night, and then some people went to lunch with us, which made Starr jealous by telling them we went to lunch and about 3 tables over at Childish Gambino sat down. Donald Glover joined us for lunch, so
That's my punishment for working.
also known as Lando Calrissian.
I know.
Yeah.
Troy.
I should have
Troy.
worked.
We got a couple pictures if you want to pretend you're there.
Okay.
I could just sit here and say, Dark Winter over and over.
It did turn
Yeah,
out
there's-
Just one thing that we were talking late last night, we discovered a bug apparently, that the wand of vexing conflagration got renamed accidentally
I
to
blame Chris.
a thunder branch wand.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, so now you have flame and air thunder branches.
All right.
I'm sure that's not
Easy
overpowered.
fix.
Well, no,
Easy fix.
one or the other, they have the exact same name, and if you combine them, you lose your wand vector.
Yes, and that's one of those things, in
Whatever
case
the name was.
there's people out there, I know there are a lot of people on the cruise last night who were talking, that's one of the popular topics is wands and branches are basically just really bad bludgeoning right now. The fizzle bonus is not worth it, and that's one of those things that there will be some more expansions on wand and stabs as a magic using device that is most likely going to be going into the focus tree. I've got a list of skills that I'm going to be adding for episode 2 stuff that will be one of the bait items to get people over into episode 2 is that the trainers will probably exist only in episode 2 over the new content. So if you want to learn these skills, there'll be episode 2 skills you have to get over there to train on. But those will likely be tier 6 type stuff. They'll probably be, my goal right now is to have 2 skills per tree, per category, and expand all of those and have one kind of inserted in the middle and one at the bottom. Coming soon.
So will there be cannibals in the new area?
If Richard, that's Richard's whole shtick is that, we'd sell 10x if we had cannabis.
Supposed to be.
He was working B really hard on cannibals.
For years.
Yeah.
Zeke.
All right,
See.
so you have mentioned new lands, you say.
Mm-hmm.
You
You can go back to the slide.
I'm sorry, guys, I was out there taking care of.
No, go back to the picture. One more, there you go.
Okay, and that is the Silver Serpent house?
So,
Yeah.
if you heard last night, that's, the Silver Serpent is going to be part of it, there's gonna be a
Yeah.
larger chunk, just
Right.
because, again, we tried to fit this, all the stuff that
Yeah.
Sanyo and Liz, had come up with.
I'm setting
They
you
really
up.
hated it.
I'm setting you up.
All right, you set the envelope. But,
setting you
so
up.
there's gonna be a larger chunk, and this is going to be part of it, but this is not
Yeah.
the only part of episode 2. This is actually gonna be a smaller chunk off the main coast.
Okay,
Go
so,
ahead.
Oh, I learned something new. There you go.
so, here's the big question. New lands,
Mhm.
this other chunk you're talking about, this is island form as well, is that correct?
What's that?
It's island
Yeah.
form as well, it's not like a big, huge landmass.
No, and when we say island, will probably be, it's not the shape of Lost Vale, but it's, it's that same size category, like a quarter the size of Novia. It'll be about a quarter the size of Novia with that and the serpent. So, go ahead.
Great, all right, sounds exciting. How are we gonna get to it? Is there going to be sailing in episode 2?
So if we're starting off, there's going to be the boats. You click on the boat and it takes you to the new land. But it's going to be simple, but that is, you guys know that's one of the things we love, we are passionate about as well, is the sailing stuff. And, we've had on our list for a while, I think we started it for a while, or at some point, like a boat-only encounter. I actually showed some stuff that's actually, the giant pirate boat, that's actually where that came in. It's me trying to set up a boat-only encounter. It's basically an encounter you get on the water. It's kind of the equivalent of, you're traveling through Novia and you get ambushed by bandits. Well, this is you travel from boat to water, but there's a chance you get stopped by pirates on the way.
Awesome. There has been some speculation, and I'm just asking this to confirm or deny, that possibly because of the land size, or the size of the boats that you have, like you have just little placement decoration boats, and then you have no boats for village lots whatsoever. Then for town lots, you have a smaller version of a city-sized boat. Then you have a city boat, which is a pirate galleon. And then you have the colossal boats that are in the keep lots and that are in the castle lots. If you bring in sailing, it has been speculated as to whether or not those boats and airships, if you ever have flying come in, which I can only assume through the skew and the fly command that it is a possibility, okay? But will those ships and boats, if you bring in that facet of the game, will they have different speeds, and would you consider that a great accommodation for those lot owners that have those size lots to those boats and ships?
So I can tell you when the platform code was set up, if you guys know, when I refer to platform, that probably doesn't mean anything to you. That's like the flying ship in Blood Bay. That's really like elevators, that's like mine carts, whatever. It's stuff that you can get on, and basically you now become oriented relative to that thing, get shipped around. When that was set up, that's one of the goals for it, was to make sure that we were looking forward to handle some of the problems we were going to have to address when we did have sailing in the game where you could actually sail the ship. Sailing actual full-size houses around is one of those things that's a bit challenging, just because when you get into sailing like a player, like a massive ship, trying to move around everything, including all the decos on that ship, becomes fairly problematic and costly. So I'm not going to promise that. We do have on our list of stuff that we did actually do some work towards making this thing have sailing. But I'm not going to promise you're going to be able to sail a fully decorated, massive ship around and drive it around the ocean. But we do want the other side of things where players are attached to a ship and they can move around together as a group.
But he made it sound so much simpler.
Just make them fly. That's all you gotta do. Check the fly button.
Another discussion we got into last night was all the essences, and if all the dragons had essences. Dragons and demons and every major critter in the game had essences. That for crafters, you can use those essences, like a lich essence or cobalt or whatever, in armor and weapons and all that. So that you have specialized armor sets for fighting different critters.
Yeah, we've talked about that too, of using the essences. Don't just make them for the encounter stuff, but branching out and using them in other aspects, like using them in the crafting and continue to expand their function and usability, and give people a reason. Again, that's one of those things that I started looking at when we talk about trying to have meaningful loot, you kill something, and again, you get your rusty spoon and 4 gold and, you know, a potion you don't want or whatever. And then even the potion you get, then, you know, pisses off some crafters because they want to craft that potion. So again, trying to have something where you kill things, you can kill big stuff, and it feels like you get something out of it that's worthwhile, other than just your rusty spoon collection. So adding the essences is one of the steps towards that. You always get a commodity out of it that other players will want and desire. But yeah, and I also think I mentioned last time, I can plan on continuing to expand the essences and the dungeon stuff. That is something that now that we kind of have it down, it is a lot of tedious work that is tough to automate. So it's very time consuming, but it's really dead simple, and it's the type of stuff that I'm going to start looking for, like I mentioned, intern people. That's something that an intern could do. Again, somebody's trying to get into the games industry. It's, again, do the wax on, wax off, and go turn these 4,000 rooms into, you know, different chunks and pieces and hook them up, because it's really just look at how the last one's set up and, you know, move data around and adjust it so you know where the connection points are and go test it 10 times. That's essences and dungeon rooms and all that type of stuff.
I'm sure I speak with most of the senior players that have characters with longevity to them. Arcane Catalyst is for something bigger. Because I think on my main character I have 5,500 of them. And I can only turn in 18 a day.
Arcane Catalyst.
They're no drop already. It's just
More use like that. Check. Noted. And those are all the type of things, again, I'm a huge fan of consumables and things you guys can use, stuff you find in the world and craft. And again, it makes those things feel like they have value. So like Arcane Catalyst, and to me that's like, okay, well that's great, let's make that as a new type of focus potion that has some other benefits as well. You know, that becomes an ingredient that you actually have a recipe also.
Yep. Got a question here. So I'll set it up just briefly. So, the question I have stems from a lot of really great changes about getting new players to get their row homes and village at the end of the quests. And we heard recently that the episode 2 content is going to be mostly upper tier for the players. So the question I have kind of connects all these together, which is, are you still looking for the new player-owned towns that are going to be going into the new landmass in episode 2? Are they still going to be restricted to pay the people who paid for episode 2 to be able to go in and explore the towns?
That's one of those ones that's a tough one, is because like it's awesome to move your town over there and being like the cool new spot that you know a lot of players can be, right? But then you're stuck with like, okay, now only episode 2 players can go to the new spot. I think that's one we're going to have to take a look at and see what percentage of the people are actually episode 2 before we can say for sure. I mean, we would like that to be the case. We'd like it to be episode 2 is rewarding, but the fallback plan is that we can have ways that, you know, people, you move your town over and you've got like 7 people who live in your town who said no to episode 2 and don't want to do episode 2 and are going to wait for it to be free in, you know, a year or two. And yeah, how do they get to their houses? And that may be one that we just allow those people to get to their houses or something. I think the player concentration when episode 2 is out for quite a while afterwards is going to be higher in episode 2 areas. So I think player-owned towns that are trying to attract people are going to have no problem for it. It's just, again, I don't think we can say 100% for sure whether or not episode 1 people who have not purchased episode 2 are going to be able to get into those towns. But my guess is we'll have some way that they can get to those towns, but not to the adventure states. Also, we're looking at the different stages for rolling out the main continent. The team has been on board with, you know, we can do it. Probably the fallback plan is we will have the continent out for you guys by the end of the year, but just have the markers for the towns, the cities that are there. We're definitely not going to have any major cities done. We may have started on them, but there'll be placeholders so you can see where they're going to be. But you'll be able to at least, at the very least, and by the end of the year, walk around the continent and start scouting it out and figure out where you want to place things, because we know there's a list of people, you know, that need to go and put their pots and pick their spots, and we need to, you know, start making that happen, so you guys will be able to at least check it out and see what's over there. Again, hoping for more and always trying to be optimistic, but that's kind of the, let's make sure it gets out there so you guys can start playing.
Yeah.
Gold scraps and silver scraps. I mean, at the very least, if you're mining, maybe there's a small percentage that we could drop some scraps so that we can actually use those. And then we also need a giant portrait of Chris wearing a crown to commemorate the new ownership. So we can hang in the house.
I agree with the portrait, and the silver scraps and gold scraps, I highly recommend you corner B in the crafting panel with that question. Because I wrote that JIRA up, I think, like 2 years ago. And it's one of those ones that gets kicked from release to release, and every now and then I like put in the comment section, ping. Like, so I'm on your side.
Yeah, we should have brought a cardboard cutout of B up here so you
Yeah.
can
So
yell and talk to
he's
me
gonna
about
be
your
here on the
problems.
crafting panel, so the crafting economy panel. So corner him on that one, please.
Is that later today or is that tomorrow?
I think it's later today.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, make sure you. So yes, I agree, but you need to also convince B while Chris is here at the same time, and you can.
In B's defense, there's a lot of times where these things that seem really simple and obvious and why you should do it ends up having some tendrils that you don't really expect. One of the ones that I have recently where I was like talking to people and like, I see absolutely no reason we don't do this, which is when you find recipes out there and going and taking the recipes and making the recipes salvageable so that they feel like they have value. Because how many times do you need to learn a recipe? Like once, and like, you know, vendors are full of these things. So making this, so when you find a recipe, it's something you can salvage it and get some wood pulp and some experience out of it. That took me 5 minutes to implement, and then took me 5 minutes to remove immediately when I realized the side effects after doing some testing, because there's a lot of recipes that I added to that list that were sold, you know, for 10 gold on a merchant, and I just added a way you can buy, you know, 10,000 scrolls for 10 gold each and get incredible experience. And so that's one of those things where, again, we didn't have a good clear way on that to define which ones were dropped and which ones were bought. And that's one of those things. Again, I'm looking for a solution, but I hope to have something soon that for scrolls that are found in the wilderness, you know, that are found as drops, you'll be able to turn into wood pulp and experience. It'll go to crafting and adventure experience. So, but again, just throwing that out is something that seems incredibly easy. Once you dig into it, sometimes you run into other stuff. And maybe that's what it is, but also B can be kind of the, you know, rightfully so, a lot of times he's the economy guy who's watching things, making sure we're not doing the silly things that, you know, actually hurt you guys when you think it's actually going to help. So I'm kind of with you there.
All right, I think we have time for one or two more, and then I think it's picture time, right? Okay.
Fertilizer for growable plants. We'd like to see that in.
Let me refer you to the cardboard cutout of me.
And I guess the other question probably goes into hoppers on growable cotton. Not beetle characters, I understand that wouldn't be to that desirable for us to be a game, but yeah, I'd like to see hoppers.
Okay, I think, again, like, let's, the crafting panel,
Yeah.
like, with these here, we can talk about that for sure.
Yeah, we're all ready to confront them about vegetables on vendors as well, or vegetables on merchants as well. So that sure that's. Again, we're gonna do a couple things for that, just because that is, again, such a low-hanging fruit. And I think it's one of those things. My guess is we added the vegetables to the merchants, the NPC merchants, before you guys could grow your own. Because we had to have something there. Then we gave you guys the ability to grow your own, and now like you can't compete with the merchants. So
Well,
that's
it's just,
happened
you
for
know,
different things.
you're killing the farmers.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
how-
if you're selling the vegetables on the vendors, what's the farmers gonna do? You're
Yeah,
killing them.
that's-
We're gonna hold a concert for them, Farm Aid
And
2020.
again, we'll get those taken off, but again, I think it's one of those things that's just the time that we added them and then never removed them.
Have they hemmed you up at all about a release date for episode 2? Well, do you have one?
2020.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
I did have a question that we also discussed last night. We had a lot of discussion last night. The high-end limits on items that are for sale, that are used in crafting from vendors, all vendors, is there any reason that you can't make 10,000 black pearls available on a vendor instead of having a click, buy, purchase, click open, buy, purchase, click open, buy, purchase, click open? And it doesn't work that fast in the game, actually, so it'd be like, it'd take you a minute to buy 10,000. 2 minutes.
I think some of it is performance issues with.
Yeah,
With-
we talked about it, and that's things that stack. We should be able to just turn up the stack size on those things. So
Yeah.
you can do if it was, had some cap. There's no reason it shouldn't have a cap. It should be 32K is what you can buy at the time. That's one that, again, I think maybe someone had a reason at some point, but I don't think the reason is valid. I think we now know it's not valid. Again, I think we didn't fully estimate the scale at which some players would be doing.
It's just so many clicks. I mean, it's really.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of things like that are too many clicks that I continue, like, I know if you've ever watched me stream before and I get on a prize and it's like, let me go buy your cat. And I've multiple times gone and bought the cat and it's like, I got to click and I got to click to find it and it's like, okay, now I click and then I try to go back playing, it's like, what's going on? And it's like, oh, there's still a couple more dialogues I got to click through. Same thing I have, I'm sure Tazar is out there somewhere, who, if he has a brace on his hand, it's from trying to like expand his
Yeah,
engine or
that's annoying
something.
as hell.
Where you can expand it a point at a time and it's like 3 clicks to expand it. So again, there's a lot of places we have these extra clicks that really aren't needed. And we need to make some improvements on it.
All right, last question before we go to the break here.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
When is enemy AI going to be revamped? Think specifically of like the number of mobs that use fire spells. Almost all of them, and confusion.
Yeah.
Very limited skill set, and you end up using the same tactics from tier 1 all the way through tier 10.
So if you watch me, I've had a couple of streams where I was doing some AI stuff recently. We have about 100 things the creatures can do, and we really need to just go back and revisit some of the old creatures, actually add in this stuff, because in the old days when we started up, like we basically did a bunch of creatures at once and set them up, and that's the tools we had at the time. Was basically I can hit you or I can hit you with a firebolt. And since then we've added in a ton of other AI stuff that's been used maybe in one place and one, here's a new dimension, like we're expanding our tool set and like we have a new thing, but it never gets propagated back. And that's one of the things we really need to spend some time going back and doing. I'll be honest though, I actually started doing that, and that's, I get a little gun shy because like I was gonna go do it like, okay, well let's go look at where players are playing. Hey, guess what? They spend a lot of time in upper tiers. I started going back and redoing some of the like lich stuff, what the liches do in upper tiers and the other things. And basically went and grabbed a glass of scotch and sat down and thought about it for a while, and was like, I don't think I can check this in right now, because if I go and I make the creatures in upper tiers more interesting and do more stuff, then the players are going to scream bloody murder and all that type of stuff. But that is one of the things that's on my list. The question we have right now is, do we just like abandon that for episode 1 and say, episode 1, this is how things are? If you want the top-notch content where creatures are far more interesting, come on over to episode 2 land and have the stuff there. And again, it would be easy to propagate that stuff back and add those things in. As I mentioned, you can watch me on one of the streams, like adding in these new AI effects once we have them in place is a matter of a minute of work that I've done live on a stream before. It is not that tough. It's just again, worrying about the backlash of going and making the creatures suddenly very different from what they were before. That's one that, again, going back like recently, of course, archers who now want to lay me and fry me or whatever.
Ever charge shot you?
Charge shot me or whatever. That was one that, of course, going back and just changing like some creature stuff. Like, hey, look, the dragons are far wimpier and getting slaughtered faster than they should be because of this one bug that was in the damage absorption, which determines what percentage of the damage from a hit their armor can absorb. And it's like, well, I fixed that bug on for the dragon's sake, and then knowing like, okay, well, that'll probably hit the archers a little bit, but then like ended up being like, oh my God, the archers are ready to come burn down my house because it's so negatively impacted them in a way I didn't expect. And of course, that's a lot of these things I test, but there's so many different combinations and test cases and stuff like that. I may test it like when I go in and watch my DPS meter while I fight a training dummy or something like that, which is not a great meter, but I go over and I test like, how many things do I test on? And that's, I already had the people hand me the list of like, I'm an archer. If I see a ghost, I just like leave. I run around and I don't do anything because I can't deal with them. And then there's a bunch of these other creatures that have higher damage resist than you would expect that suddenly became nearly unkillable or ineffective, made archers ineffective. Again, that's one of those things I worry a little bit about going back and updating old creatures and breaking the game for people, because as soon as I go and change things, like, hey, look at this, I now have, they can do, these guys, I can go and add chain lightning to these things and add some unique effects to these things. Well, guess what? All the guys who are like, well, I was all fire resist, man, and now I go in there and I get killed in 2 shots.
With the number of skills that people have GM, I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, that's again, they build in your but yes. Yeah, updating the creatures is easy. It's again worrying about the side effects and do we push that for episode 2 and just try to make sure all the episode 2 creatures are more interesting versions of War.
Sounds like more stuff to talk about in the combat.
Hey.
Okay.
Great information. All right, guys, we're going to break for group photo. We're going to have it right back there because of the weather. We were originally going to have it out in the pool area, but because of the weather and the wind blowing, we got fuzzy bunny rabbit ears that can fly away and whatnot. So we're going to have it back there against the back wall. You two, please join us for a group photo, and then we're going to break for, well, we're going to take a break, but then we're all meeting over here at
Russo's Pizzeria.
Rizzo's Pizza. Right, just walk right here for lunch.